have a no.
I think we should start. Yes, we do.
And we have our first cold.
Good evening. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is right there.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you are speaking tonight into the microphone and would like to take your mask off, I believe it's acceptable. I have mine off only when I'm speaking because I found that people can't hear me. We've invited everyone here tonight so that the community has an opportunity to give input on the formulation of a plan to open our school for full-time in-person learning. As you know, there are a number of factors that need to be considered in order to proceed safely and effectively on behalf of our students and staff. We'll gather the input, constructive criticism, data, and suggested solutions we receive, and then proceed to make decisions that we feel are in the best interest of our students. You will hear from our administration and facilities manager as to what a full-time, in-person setting would look like for our students at this time. I would ask that each speaker please give their name and try to speak for no longer than 3 to possibly 4 minutes so that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. Finally, we realize that this pandemic has been a huge challenge emotionally, physically, and in testing all of our patients. We realize that other school districts have proceeded differently based on their situation and resources. We are Hampton, and this board wants nothing more than to be back in person, full-time, as soon as is safely, responsibly, and reasonably possible. Due to the size of this room and its location, here are a few things to remember for tonight's meeting. Remember to talk directly into the microphone. Not only is it difficult for people in the back of the gym to hear you if you don't, but people at home will not hear you at all. The microphone should always be no more than 1 foot away from your mouth when talking to the public. Community participation to call in via phone, call 1-857-444-0744 and use the code 649427. And you need to dial 5* if you would like to raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to give feedback during the appropriate time. So the first part of this meeting, Dr. Costa and her administrators are going to give an overview for you folks, and then we're going to turn it over for public comments for the rest of the meeting.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Les. So tonight is an opportunity for us all to have an opportunity to listen, to be heard, so that we can have a better understanding of what might be in the best interest of our students. Keep in mind that this leadership team and this staff of SAU 90 is always has been, always will be committed to high quality education. I see that daily in my visits to 3 schools. I try to share a glimpse of that with all of you each week on the Facebook post, so you have a sense of what does learning look like during COVID-19. I am actively in these schools, in these classrooms weekly to know what's going on. With that being said, I know there's another side to all of this that you experience as parents, and we want to hear that from you tonight as well. So I know that we are only seeing part of what the Child School Day looks like, and you know that we pride ourselves always as partners in the educational process, valuing what our community has to say, valuing what you as the child's first educator has to say, parents. So we definitely want to hear that. I want to begin, though, tonight and talk a little bit about where we are. And I know that it's been said to me, and I've seen in your letters, that there is some concern that we have not had another survey, we have not listened, we have not been communicative as we should be. And I want to just say to you that I've tried to communicate to you weekly, in the sense that there's a Friday letter that goes out. There is also, this has been a standing agenda item on the board meeting that we have revisited every single month. So this is first and foremost on our radar. It is also a school board goal to return to brick and mortar learning. So this has always been our priority. So you know, back in July, we took a leap of faith and we enacted a blended learning model, providing students with 2 days of in-person learning, 2 days of at-home remote learning, with the option for a complete remote learning. So students that chose not to come into school for reasons, good reasons, they could have a remote option completely, which was supported by all 3 schools. Our thinking was that this was the best of a very bad situation. In fact, I can say with certainty and clarity that looking back, it was a great decision. There were many, many, many schools that did not go in school September 8th. We were a front runner on July 27th. In fact, people were calling us, looking to us in terms of how have we been able to be so successful? How is it that you have no shutdowns? How is it that you've been able to sustain this model? And we've been called by many districts around the state, which I think is a tribute to part of the success of a hybrid model. So what have we learned? Our primary focus in the pandemic is really around our safety and well-being for everyone, being ever mindful of the COVID numbers and not being able to look back and say, well, we could have, we should have. It was ever present in our mind, and we made that decision. So we move forward from today. We also said from the get-go that we would follow all CDC guidelines. What does that mean? It meant that all students were 6 feet apart, all adults were 6 feet apart, masks were required, screeners were required, and deep cleaning was required. And there was an intentional focus on hygiene in the classrooms, washing hands. Again, in our weekly calls with the Department of Health and Human Services, that would be Dr. Chan, Dr. Daly, Dr. Talbot, and the nurses were on weekly calls with the Department of Health and Human Services. Dr. Chan, who is an epidemiologist specialist, as is Dr. Talbot and Dr. Daly. We asked about our model, and they lauded it as being, in fact, one of the most sustainable models. And I know that there's been some criticism on that model. I'm not saying it is the best model. I am saying that it seemed to be effective in the sense that we were able to keep our schools open, keep a watchful eye on our students, maintain levels of learning while keeping everyone safe. And as I said, we now see many schools moving to this model. Many schools that are just opening in January have moved to a hybrid model. What this model helps us with is contact tracing. Unlike some schools that have been open, we know that whenever there's a contact tracing and there is a COVID diagnosis, we know that many schools have to shut down. We've heard about that. We've seen that. That's been talked about in our calls with people from all over the state and all over the nation. We realized that we've been able to do this without minimal impact to schools. What does that mean? It means that we didn't have to change integrated arts. We didn't have to change floor plans. We didn't have to change staffing. We didn't have to change as many things as we might have to with other models. And we have had to date no school closures. We were feeling pretty positive because in our minds it was providing consistency and continuity for all students. And again, it has allowed us to be in school since September 8th. Although the mid-year data review is not perfect, we feel it's moving in the right directions when you consider what students arrived into school with. Remember, when students started on September 8th, they hadn't been in school since March 13th of last year. And we see those gaps closing, we see kids moving along a track of progress so that we see potential gains, we see closing of those gaps, which is very promising to us. We thought that adding more in-person learning on Wednesdays beginning March 3rd was a step forward towards more in-person brick-and-mortar learning. That was our thinking around that. So why is it challenging for SAU 90? What I've heard is, well, other schools can do this. Why can't SAU 90? SAU 90 is about 1,000 students over 3 schools. We've been compared to smaller schools, and I don't want to point them out, but they're very different when you're talking about a school that has about 300 students in person. It's very different. We are most comparable to Exeter in terms of our size. We know Exeter has been closed. We know they have just started in-person learning, but that is Exeter. And just as I would want them talking about Hampton, I say that only to give you some kind of a frame of comparison with a school that's in our immediate vicinity. We know Portsmouth is much larger. We also know that there are other schools that have made other decisions for different reasons. I also heard last week that Winnicott High School is looking to go to a 5-day schedule. I can tell you that I am in conversations with the superintendent over there, and it's a goal, but she also says it with, in the same breath, provided 25% choose remote. If 25% do not choose remote, Winnicott may not be able to because of the factors that we're all dealing with. So what you have here is you have a problem of size. What do I mean by size? We have approximately about 350 students in each school. We have approximately 40 staff members. We would need to, in order to maintain social distancing and adhere to CDC guidelines, we would have to break all classes down into 2 spaces, meaning 2 adults for every class. So I want you to understand the implications of that. What other schools have also done, which you might not know, is although they're in 5 days a week, because it impacts the staffing, we know that because of that, teachers do not get lunches. They have lunch with their students, and integrated arts becomes sacrificed because those teachers now become that second adult to support those classrooms. Do the math. 40 professional staff, 20 classrooms, there's your 2 people per classroom. So what happens is you have an impact to your program, you have an impact to lunch schedules. So what happens in those school positions that are not filled, so that they can drill down a little bit deeper. So I think we're going to start with Mr. O'Connor and Hampton Academy. Thank you.
Good evening. Usually we start with the primary school or the elementary school, but the middle school is so different instructionally from the elementary schools. They're very similar. They have 1 classroom teacher. Hampton Academy, we have teams of teachers. There are 4 core teachers on each team: math, language arts, social studies, and science, as well as a special ed case manager. So complications begin to arise because middle school is built on being flexible. It's built on letting kids move around, and we haven't been able to do that this year. The teachers move around instead. Every single period, they take their cards. Every single teacher, that's classroom teachers and integrated arts teachers, and they move around the room. The children stay where they are. We're able to give them mass breaks every couple of periods, a snack break outside in a courtyard. We have a walking path around the school now. And we've had lunch in our cafeteria every day because we keep the cohorts so small. That opportunity for those kids to get together, even at lunch, or at a mask break, or at a snack break, is priceless, if you will. So we've been successful at Hampton Academy because we have a great schedule. It involves both core subjects and integrated art subjects. I'm going to take a look at the advantages. I know Lois has already hit it. All of us want kids back 5 days. That's why I'm here. I love kids. I want to do it safely. So if I have kids here 5 days a week, will I love that? Yes. But will it be safe? It may not be. This is a brand new facility. We have plenty of room. There's no question there. But again, Lois alluded to staff. So let me tell you about the day. And again, one of the other advantages that Dr. Costa alluded to is Tier 3. We'll keep those special ed supports in place. They stay there. But the rest of the day and the rest of the schedule, and it looks very different. So as we talked about, I would need to put 2 adults in every classroom. Well, I have 5 teams with 4 teachers. That's, it's 20 classroom teachers. I have integrated arts teachers. I have interventionists who provide supports to kids who are not special ed, but who are, and that's, we call it Tier 2. They will no longer be available for regular classes. What I'll have to do is use the art teacher, the music teacher, the band, the chorus, the computer teacher, the librarian, the wellness teacher, the world language teachers, to be that second teacher in the classroom. So many classrooms will need to be relocated because if I'm having 2 teachers work together, they really have to be close to each other because I can't leave kids unsupervised. That's not a big deal. I mean, we move furniture all the time. It's just logistically, it's like starting the school year over. We're completely kind of throwing out what we're doing and we're going to do something else. When I put a schedule together for the middle school, we start in March to be ready for next August. I'm going to try to do that in 5 weeks. I am all on to research plan here. You have to know that. We want kids back in the building, but again, I'm going to repeat, we have to do it safely. I hate that point number 3. That's one that really rips at my heart because some kids come to school just to do art, or be in the band, or be in the chorus, or be in the computer lab, or meet with a PE teacher. And that's not going to be possible anymore on the schedule because those people will be backing up. The classes that they'll provide your children will be, we call asynchronous. So it will be, the teacher will send a recorded lesson or a video or an assignment, and the children will do it. There will be no interaction face-to-face, unfortunately. One of the things that we really thrived on our Wednesdays is called advisory. Advisory block in the middle school is kind of like the least pressured course of the day. You're talking about, with your peers, you're talking about different things as far as academics, social, emotional, and we're trying to build a community. And I believe we did that. That won't be possible because when we do the remote Wednesdays, everybody's at home. If everybody comes in on Wednesday, I can't have some kids in a classroom and some kids at home, and a teacher who may have a classroom with 3 or 4 advisories going on at the same time. Logistically, it just wouldn't work. I talked about, we use tier intervention. Kids who are above grade level or on grade level are called Tier 1. They get it, and obviously those kids are the ones that learning is easy for them. Tier 2 are those kids who are just slightly below grade level, and quite honestly, they just have gaps, but they need help and they need support. And obviously, we talked about Tier 3, those are students who have individual education plans. The group that will suffer the most is that Tier 2 because the interventionists that I use to help them will now be in a classroom, helping a classroom teacher. Loss of designated spots. We can fill this school. I could probably put more kids in, but we're going to lose our cafeteria. That is the one, if you have middle school kids, that is the one time of day where they can relax. Sometimes we'll put music on, we'll put a video on. They've been looking at computers all day, so we try not to do that. But it is, even if you're not next to somebody, you have eye contact, and as kids, they communicate through the masks. We'll be delivering lunches to classrooms. If you know middle schoolers, they're adolescents, they're going through a growth phase. they don't like to sit down for very long. And I'm afraid this model, because we won't have an opportunity to get up except for those mass breaks and snack breaks. It'll be a very long day for some students. And that's why we're here, because we care about kids. I wanted to finish on a positive note. I hope I can. Those of you that know the folks at Hampton Academy, my staff, know that they are passionate at what they do. And we will do anything. But let's think of safety first. Thank you.
Thank you. It's tough to follow Mr. O'Connor, I'll tell you what. He talked about a lot of the advantage, so did Dr. Costa. I'm not going to repeat him. I think we all know the advantages to kids being in school 5 days a week. It's what they're used to. It's what they're used to over all the years. It's socialization. It gets them interacting with other people. But we tell the kids all the time, our number one job, especially at our school, is to keep everyone safe. And we tell that to the kids our first expectation is be safe. We tell it to kids all the time. We tell it to the staff all the time. So whatever we're doing has to be operating in the realm of that safety, being safe at all times. So, as Mr. O'Connor said, I'm all for kids being in school. I would love to have kids here 5 days a week. Trust me, it makes my job a little easier. The days move along a lot faster, and it's more interesting. But again, we have to do it safely, and we have to make sure if we're going to kids in the school that we can keep them in the school consistently. And that's one of the parts that Dr. Costa talked about, our hybrid model. We are still in school. We've been in school since September 8th. Aside from a few cohorts here and there that had to stay home and learn remotely, we've been open, which a lot of places cannot say. And so that is something, our staff and the facilities department and the people in SAU 90 should be very proud of, because our schools are still open and our kids still get to come 2 days a week, 3 days a week on March 3rd. As Mr. O'Connor said, our school is only so big. I technically have enough to divide every class into 2 spaces. I can take Mrs. Smith's class and put her in 302 and 303 right next to each other. When I do that, though, I need to take out all of my learning labs where my identified students work. I need to remove my OT room, my music therapy room, my PT and speech room, and find alternate locations in the backs of rooms for them to work, because I only have so many classrooms. Classrooms are only so big. By following CDC guidelines of 6 feet of social distancing, I can only put so many students in a class. When I have a 5th grade teacher with 21 students between cohorts A and B, they're not all fitting in one classroom. They can't. Mathematically, I can't do it. So everyone gets 2 spaces, which means I need to relocate people. And as Mr. O'Connor said, we do that all the time. But I have to plan for that. I need to give teachers time to pack up everything they need and go to somewhere else for the remainder of the school year, so that they can still provide the high-quality instruction your students are used to receiving. As Mr. O'Connor said, and Dr. Costa said, when I take every classroom and Mrs. Smith is in Mrs. Smith A, I need an adult with Mrs. Smith B, which means I have to pull my integrated arts teachers, my target assist teachers, potentially some of my special educators, my school counselor, because I have 13 teachers in my school right now. I need 26. So I have to find 13 other bodies that aren't tied one-on-one students to help them come in, because I can't leave kids in a classroom by themselves. And in much the same way that we separate the kids into cohort now, I would have Mrs. Smith cohort A and B. They'd both be in school, but they wouldn't be interacting, because in order for us to contact trace and maintain that 6 feet and keep track of what's going on, the cohorts have to stay in separate classrooms, which if they were to go to recess, even though we're trying to increase socialization with their peers, they're still limited to that 8 to 10 students that they're in the same cohort with currently. Support services could be interrupted. If you're a 5th grade parent, you know that you have 2 phenomenal hybrid teachers in Mrs. Crowley and Mrs. Cronin. The problem with them working hybrid right now and then eventually being put into a second classroom is they don't provide targeted support and instruction for Tier 2 and our extended students that are above Tier 1. So our support services then, again, Tier 3 students with an individualized education plan that is a legally binding document and will not be touched. Students who are receiving other support from Mrs. Chalfie or Mrs. Cronin or Mrs. Crowley, that will be interrupted, because I need them to be my second teacher in the other part of Mrs. Smith's classroom, which again compromise my Tier 2 supports. And then I lose designated learning labs in common areas. So some of our pull-out services, we're going to have to get very creative. We're trying not to share spaces and have too many people coming in and out, because then we have to worry about safety and health and hygiene and all those things we're already worried about. So I am all for, again, getting students back in our schools. I would love to see their smiling faces coming in under their masks. I would love to have more students with us. But we have to do it safely because our kids need to be safe and our teachers need to stay safe, or we're going to get shut down, and that's going to disrupt what's already happening. And that's the last thing we're going to want. I want kids in school, period. So I think if we can do whatever it takes, it just has to be done with safety in the forefront. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you all for everything you've been doing this year. It's been by far the most unique year that I've ever had in my 30-plus years in education, and I could not have done this without all of your support. And really, it's just been incredible. And I'm very passionate right now because we've done a great job. Let's just stop and pause and say that. We've all done a great job. You know, tonight we're talking, I'm not going to talk much because these two did a great job, but what I'm going to say is, there's been so many positives that have happened right now, and there's a lot of positives about moving to a 5-day as well. One of the funniest things I've noticed this year, it's funny, is I'm outside every day at recess, every day, because everybody's busy. They're in cohorts, right? So I put myself on duty, all duties every day outside. And the kids, as they explained, are in their pods of 8 or 9 or 10 in sections of the playground. Center school is huge, but they're all in sections because we're following CDC guidelines. We're not mixing cohorts. We're not sharing things. We're not sharing equipment. And the first 3 days when the kids were outside and they only had 8 kids to play with, they didn't know what to do with themselves. They stared at each other. They sat on the ground. They looked for 30 minutes. They have no clue. The 4th day, someone said something in the group. There's always a leader. Next thing you know, they're all playing with each other. And all year, those 8, 9 kids have had a ball at recess, and nobody has been excluded. A normal recess, in a normal year, 100 kids outside, bunch of leaders, bunch of followers, a bunch of kids parallel, just running with no clue. But they're all in small pods, and they've all developed their own social skills. I had nothing to do with it. I don't know why I'm being paid. I had nothing to do with this. They developed those skills on their own. So that's just we've been hearing so many negative. I want to make sure you hear some positive things that are happening. So when they're in school, they're doing that. So if we're in 2 days or 5 days, they'll still be in that pod, and they'll still be with those kids. Now, we talk about classrooms being separated into 2 spaces because we felt that's the best thing to do, bring everybody back, because for 2 trimesters, these kids have developed, right or wrong, the way we set it up in September, they've developed relationships with those 8 kids. So they need to maintain that relationship. We're not going to stir them all up and mix them all. That doesn't help the kids. I know there's a lot of advantage which will help parents, but we're about what's going to be best for children in their social emotional anxiety. In late March or April 1st, we're not going to mix kids all. I can't, in my school at least, mix them around. So if I at least have them side by side and they have that same consistent adult sharing rooms and another adult helping, it continues that sense of community. So whether we're in the hybrid for the rest of the year or we're in a 5-day full, we have to maintain that community. Do we understand that? Does that make sense? So that's the mentality that I have right now, is maintaining a sense of community that we've developed. You kept hearing about 2 spaces, 2 spaces, 2 spaces. I can't put 18 kids in a room. If anyone's been at the top floor at 2nd grade at center school, it's 500 square feet each room. I can't do that. In the other rooms at the school, I could maybe fit 2 or 3 more in, but I'm not strip classroom down in a primary school with nothing, no books, no shelves, no work table. I can't do that either. That's not what's best for kids. So that's why the 2-space model is working. Now, there are some disadvantages of a 2-space model. My colleagues have talked about that. There are all adults, all hands on deck for 12 weeks for the final trimester. That's what we do. We have to have an abbreviated schedule. We can't go till 3 o'clock because it's all hands, all on deck, until it's time to go home. We can't be mixing kids around. So they have lunch. Teachers will eat with the kids. They'll go outside. They'll take mass breaks with the kids. But we can't have giant recesses. We can't move around. So the teachers under the collective bargaining agreement have to have a length period. They have to have time to have their own lunch. And they have to have time to plan with their co-teacher. That's why we have to have an abbreviated time, because we can't put 2 adults in a room and say, teach 2nd grade. That they need time every day to plan to do that. So that there has to be a balance of some time is where teachers have an opportunity to collaborate and work together. Special ed, we will always make special ed work. That is the priority. That is the law. We will do that. Whatever space we will find a space to take care of special education students. Now, when we talk about Tier 2 interventions as a challenge, and when I say the word challenge, it's not meant that it's a barrier. It's just a challenge for us. I mean, a challenge for me is something that I need to work on to make it happen. It's not a be-all, end-all, so that's why it's a challenge, but it can happen. But Tier 2 interventions won't look the same. I have some really strong teachers at my school. They're going to work on their own. They're going to try to get strategies from each other. They're going to work with my reading specialists. They're going to do what they can to make sure the teachers have the tools in the toolbox that they can help the students in front of them in the class. So we'll work on that. That's a challenge. There are some challenges. Furniture is a challenge, right? We need to make sure everyone has their own safe workspace. Just need to start looking for furniture. I might call you up and ask you for some furniture. We'll do what we can to do this. So there's things we need to look at. The integrated arts, we don't want to eliminate integrated arts altogether from them. So if the kids go home in an abbreviated schedule, they'll have access with a Chrome to go on, still in the Google class, and do some enrichment activities, and at their own leisure, pick with things that they need to do based on their ability and their time at home to do that. So it's not like we're eliminating integrated arts, we're just shifting how it's going to be done. So this has been a very difficult decision we're going through right now. But I want to keep in mind what's best for everybody, what's best for the children, what's best for the adults, what's best for the schools, what's best for everybody. And we'll hopefully make an informed decision at some time in the future, okay? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. So moving forward into the next part, there are further considerations that are listed for you to think about. I wanted to give Ms. Lasarda, is there something that you'd like to add or at this time? I just want to offer it. Okay. Yep. And I think Mary is the same. Yep. So obviously our facilities manager, Keith Lassard, our food service director, Mary Borg, would do whatever we needed to do to ensure that the buildings were clean, sanitized. Mary Borg would make sure that all kids are fed as we always do. Breakfast, lunch, snacks, that's all part of her area, and that's free this year, so it's a great advantage for all of our children. Dr. Lois De Silva Napton, junior moment as our special ed pupil service director. Sure.
Good evening. It's good to see everybody out here. It's nice to see so much support. And this is a really important decision that we're trying to make, so we're just trying to make the decision with all of the information that we can. As much as all the principals have said special ed won't be touched, that's a wonderful thing, but it's still going to be challenging. Yes, the students will receive their services, but where? We don't know. All the spaces will be used. It's going to be very, very challenging. Integrated arts, the loss of synchronous integrated arts, is not just going to affect special ed, it's going to affect everybody. So I hate to pull out special ed and say they're special, they're going to get everything. We really are one big pile of children, and we really have to do what's best for all kids. And we will do what's best for all kids based on the best information we have in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. De Silva Napton. Also, I guess I want to say that we've always been a district that has focused on the social emotional learning of our students. Pre-K to grade 5 Center and Marsden School have been responsive classroom schools for over 20 years. There is a concerted effort to always look at how our children develop socially, emotionally, behaviorally, and academically. We have great care for developing the whole child. Obviously, that will remain a focus of ours, although it's going to look different. It'll be more integrated into the day, where Wednesdays is going to change slightly. We know with transportation in the fall that we went to you and said we were concerned about the number of students on buses, and you rose to that challenge. Many of you got together, you carpooled, you assisted one another, you helped out with that. Again, we'd be looking at bus numbers just for safety reasons. We'd do what we could there. We would look at staggered arrivals and departures. It might take longer if we have more students that are riding or departing in the afternoons. We would be adjusting for that in our schedules. I think at this time, what I'd like to do is to give Mrs. Brand an opportunity to talk just slightly as a first responder for our school, Karen Brand, who is the middle school nurse who has really helped us out tremendously in terms of acting as a conduit between the state and our district. So Karen Brand.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to talk to you about the new CDC guidance as of February 12th. We are, as Rockingham County, we are presently in the red zone, which is the very bottom one. We are a very high, substantial rate of transmission right now. According to the new CDC guidelines, they suggest that our community send K through 5th grade kids back to school using 6-foot spacing, and recommend that the middle and high schoolers stay fully remote, because their reasoning behind that is they feel that the middle and high school, just by nature of their age, are more apt to spread transmission quicker than the younger age. Well, how does that affect Hampton community? Our numbers of transmission have been lowered because everyone's doing a great job doing all mitigating factors, and you should all pat yourselves on the back. It's really hard, and you're doing a great job. So to answer that, we turn to the New Hampshire Department of Public Health, as Dr. Costa said, is led by Dr. Ben Chan, Dr. Elizabeth Talbot, Dr. Beth Daly. They are the specialists in our state's epidemiology and our infectious disease. Their team responds and works on the governor's task force and answer to the Governor Sununu. They suggest that each school in their district follow what works best for their school buildings, keeping in mind maximizing space of 6-foot distancing, minimizing close contacts, minimizing the least amount of people who have to be sent home on quarantine. With that said, they also very much want to enforce daily mitigation strategies, which, as we all know by heart, is full-time wearing your mask when you're indoors, 6-foot spatial distancing preferred, hand hygiene is way up there, daily cleaning throughout the school day, intense cleaning between cohorts, no mix in the cohorts, stay home when you're sick. Then you add additional layering of, limiting essential travel outside New England. Again, no mix in the cohorts, decreasing amount of group sizes and get-togethers, and then the final nice layering of vaccinations. And you all know by now that New Hampshire is one of the few states who has moved or has voted to have teachers and the school staff in phase 2A, where most of America is in 1B, and the CDC also emphasizes the school staff and teachers being 1B. It is what it is. We're in 2A. Hopefully by mid to end of March, early April, the teachers and school staff will start. So I just want to reiterate that we all are here. We all want our kid back to school, all full-time. We need to do it safely. And as a medical person, I'm just giving you the information and the data that's provided for the guidance that we use. If we can use 6-foot spacing as the primo, that is preferred. If we just want to maximize spatial distancing, minimize close contacts, minimize quarantine. We want to educate the kids. We want to socialize them. We need to do it safely, and we need to think about the fallout if we don't do that. Close contact is still defined by the New Hampshire Department of Public Health as being within 6 feet of a person who's identified as positive COVID. Doesn't matter if you're wearing masks. If you're within 6 feet for a cumulative amount of 10 minutes or longer over their infectious period, you are a close contact. You go home, you quarantine 10 days. If you're a household member with the person in your household who's positive, you quarantine 10 days. If you're not able to totally separate from each other, which means the positive person goes upstairs with their own bedroom, bathroom, everybody else stays downstairs, or that positive person goes outside the family, those household members do an additional 10 days. If one of those people in the household becomes positive, the remaining non-positive people go an additional 10 days. It can go on and on and on. Then when that child is finally able to come back, if we're not 6-foot spacing, it could be a matter of 2 days, get a call, close contact again. It starts all over again. We don't want that. We want healthy children. We don't want them worrying about it. Am I going to come back today and get called again? I don't want to call you as parents and say, I'm sorry, you're close contact again. It's not a phone call I want to make. We want to stay open. We thank you for your support, and we hope we just can move ahead in doing what's best for our kids and doing it safely. Thank you.
Yeah, just a minute, yeah. So just, I think to conclude, thank you, Karen, thank you, Mrs. Brand. Just to conclude, so obviously, we obviously want to hear from you tonight, and you've heard from us. We also have a survey that's out there. I know that some of you were waiting for tonight to do the survey. That's absolutely fine. I also got emails saying, can I change my survey? This is what we've decided, is we are going to count the last survey that you complete. So if you've completed the survey 3 times, because I know that people change their minds, we will count the last survey that you complete. You do have until Friday, this Friday at 9 o'clock to complete that survey. Obviously, we've got some logistics to figure out, but we wanted you to hear what a 5-day looks like, because we heard at the last school board meeting that this was something that you wanted to hear about from us. So I thought it was important for us to be very thoughtful and to very quickly have a response for you. So I wanted to be able to do that for you tonight, just so that you can know those are part of the logistics we'd have to figure out. These are some of the impacts that would have as a result of that. Obviously, we want to communicate to our community. I think you should know the board, you should know me, you should know the principals, that we pride ourselves on communicating with you. We live here. I go in a grocery store and I have several conversations. I don't turn the other way. I have a conversation. We want to hear from you. I do a lot of walking in town. People see me walking. I don't shy away. We want to hear from you. We recognize that these are your schools, these are your children, and we want to do what we can to make it work. But we have to also keep in mind that we have to do what's best for everyone. So with that said, I think I'm going to turn it over to you, Les, and that's all we have for now.
Okay, so we will open the floor for discussion. Remember to talk directly into the microphone. If you feel comfortable removing your mask, it's probably better. And we're going to keep each speaker to 3 to 4 minutes. And if you need to speak again, it will be after everybody else has spoken once.
All right, well, first off, thank you, and thank you for having this tonight. Thank you for the teachers and everything everybody's doing.
And I'm sorry.
Oh,
and
yep.
if you could give your name and address.
Yeah, so Dan Griffin, 24 Presidential Circle. Once again, just thank you for having us here tonight. Thank the teachers for all you guys are doing, the school board, the administrators. Everybody's doing the best they can. And we all understand that you guys are trying to get the kids back in school. First off, I just want to say I'm not an educator or a doctor, so I'm not going to say that I'm an expert or have all the solutions on how to proceed to getting kids back to school full time. I'm a parent and a member of this great community. We moved here 3 years ago from New York, and we knew within the first few weeks that this is where we want to raise our 4 children. I'm here tonight to speak not only on behalf of my children, but also many of the families and children in the community. This has been a hard year for everybody. The parents, teachers, school administrators, and everyone in the community, but especially for our children. I do not want to stand up here and talk about statistics or what other schools across New Hampshire and New England are doing. I don't think that's going to help the solution or the problem that we're facing in our community. I also don't want to have a blame game, like on social media and all the different posts and all those things going on right now. That's not the answer. Blaming parents, blaming the teachers, blaming the administration, that's not going to help fix anything. All that has done thus far is starting to divide our community and help us understand the challenges or find solutions to help support the most vulnerable members of our community that we're here to talk about tonight, the children. This is something that none of us have gone through before. That's why I give everybody that's up here and all the teachers in the schools a lot of credit. We've never had to go through this before. We don't have all the answers. We got thrown at this last March. We didn't know what to do. Social distancing, masks, everything we're doing. But we have to find the answers and the solutions as we navigated through this pandemic, so as a whole we can move forward together and find hope and happiness for our children. It is also hard to tell our children how our children are truly handling their emotions and stress in the current situation because of the fact that we've never been through this. We cannot compare it to anything any of us went through as children ourselves. The stress this pandemic has put on all of us will carry for us for many years, each of us dealing with the stress differently, including our children. As teachers, parents, and community members, we all have the same goal for our children and students. We want our kids to be safe, to grow up to be good, kind citizens, and make positive impacts in their lives and the lives of others. The thing that scares me the most, has been keeping me up since last March, is the unknown of what this is going to bring for long-term mental health of our children. In early January 2021, a 7th grade student from Mount Vernon, New Hampshire, who was dealing with depression, took his own life. He left a note saying he loved his family so much, but gave no other details of why he did the unthinkable. This was a happy boy who had friends, family, and showed no signs of depression, leaving his parents and community there thinking, how could this happen? On December 4th, 2020, a young man in Brunswick, Maine, 16-year-old man, also took his own life. Similar to the 7th grader, he left a note for his parents, but it was much more detailed on why he took his own life. The note talked about how he felt he was growing apart from his friends, felt isolated, missed being in school every day, playing sports. I do give his parents a lot of credit to speak out on national news about how their son took his own life and to try to help prevent others from having the same thing happen to them. Shortly after his death, I spoke with someone who coached this young man in football, and he told me there was no signs they ever thought this would happen with this young boy. Last week, Dr. Dominic spoke, called in the school board meeting to discuss the impact the pandemic has had on mental health of our kids, and them being isolated and in school full-time, and how ongoing isolation and limited in-person learning, as well as limited social activities, is having our children. I fully support 100% of what Dr. Dominic said on that when he called into that meeting. Some parents in our community have shared examples after Dr. Dominic spoke about issues their kids are having and seeing that they're struggling, and have shared that they're worried about their own kids' mental health. I applaud those parents for being brave and sharing those stories with everybody in this community. What scares me is how many of us parents and teachers are not seeing the signs that our children are struggling during this pandemic. Children are spending a lot of time in their rooms, on screen time, away from school, away from their friends, away from things like sports, music, and other extracurricular activities. Wondering when they can see their grandparents, their cousins, their aunts, their uncles, again, due to travel restrictions or just because it's not safe. Do we see the signs of the mental health issues in our children? Do I see the signs in my own 4 children of their struggles? Or am I just too worried about day-to-day life and all the struggles that's happening every day that we're going through this pandemic? When catastrophic things happen in a community, there's always a reaction to prevent it from happening again. Sometimes these things don't happen in our community, but we put measures in place to try and prevent incidents before they happen. We made our schools more secure after Sandy Hook and Parkland incidents. We have anti-bullying campaigns in all of our schools to make sure our children learn to be nicer to each other and show kindness. We are taking initiative to keep our children safe. I ask that we work together as a community, our strongest bond, to get these kids back into school full time so we do not have to react to an incident like the one from Mount Vernon or Brunswick, Maine. Once again, I am not here to throw any blame on anybody. Everybody is working their tails off to get these kids back into school, and I don't question the school board, I don't question the teachers. Everybody's trying to do this together. The only way that we can do it together is as a community. Community is our strongest bond right now. We have community that we can figure out how to get these kids back to school full time. It's going to take some extra work. It's going to take some extra effort. It's going to take a lot more parent involvement than probably what we're already doing now in remote learning. We need to be creative to find a way together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody with a stopwatch knows that we went over. That's fine. Did I go over? Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. It's just rough guidelines. We want everybody who wants to speak to have a chance. Is there anyone else? Mr. Page? Oh. Right. Mrs. Croto and then Mr. Page.
Hi, it's Michelle Croto, 65 Carolyn Ave. I'm going to keep my mask on because I need to deliver instruction like this every day, and my mask has to stay on when I deliver instruction. Hampton is a community I know and love. I went to Hampton schools, my children went through Hampton schools, and I have taught in Hampton for 18 years. This past year has easily been the most challenging one to date. When we started the hybrid model in September, everyone thought it was going to be for just a couple of weeks so we could build relationships with our students before going fully remote. It's now mid-February, and we are still going strong with our hybrid in-person model. I am so proud of the students, the parents, and my fellow educators for working together to make the most of a challenging, if not impossible, situation. There have been nearly 500,000 deaths in the United States, 2.5 million worldwide due to COVID. The new variant, which we've been told spreads more easily, is now in New Hampshire. Although people have begun to be vaccinated, New Hampshire teachers are not considered a priority. The CDC is recommending that people double down on safety precautions, even suggesting wearing 2 masks to prevent the spread. I have to leave out this next part about my brother because I won't be able to get through it, but my brother died last year due to COVID. Please trust that teachers want to be back in school full-time just as much as you do. We love our jobs, we love your kids, and we want nothing more than return to normal. Is it so wrong that we need to feel safe to do this? I do not challenge or question the protocols when I enter a doctor's office. I don't challenge or question protocols when I fly in the airlines, which I no longer do. I trust that the professionals who run these places have the best interests of the people they serve. Please trust that teachers and administrators take the best interests of our children to heart. Having parents conduct a survey when they don't have a complete picture must have made the survey difficult to complete for many. Parents should have a complete understanding of what the new model will look like for their child so they can discuss the options together as a family. Parents, please ask your children if they are happy with how things currently are or if they would rather have 5 days per week with no live integrated arts classes, with their current teacher splitting their time between 2 classes, along with other changes that will impact their day. Lastly, when we hear from some Hampton community members that it's time for teachers to get back to work or to stop hiding behind the union, it feels offensive and abusive. Teachers, raise your hands if you work weekends and holiday vacations. Teachers, raise your hand if you work evenings after dinner or when you put your kids to bed. We are working. We're working harder than ever before. Teachers are the union, and we aren't hiding. We are showing up for your kids because we love what we do, and we love them.
Hi, I'm Nathan Page, 200 Drakeside Road. I'm going to try to make up for your overage. I won't go too long. I'm sorry, I was a couple minutes late. I don't understand. I was trying to figure out why the 2 teachers per classroom, why that is. And also, in the state, the New Hampshire Department of Education guidelines, they say that you could have a minimum of 3 feet between students in a classroom, not 6. 6 is an optimal, but you could have a minimum of 3 feet. So somewhere between 3 and 6 may be the right placing, and we could be able to hopefully get all the kids to a certain, in one classroom if with the smaller classrooms. I know my child's in 4th grade, and he is struggling with remote learning. He is not happy. He came home and said, "Can you please get me into Sacred Heart?" And I called, they have a waiting line. So, but we need to safely, as soon as safely possible, get these children back into a 5-day-a-week program. Maybe do a half day on Wednesdays so they allow the facilities to do a deep cleaning halfway through the week or something to that effect. The teachers, I know, are doing an outstanding job. They're giving it their all. And it's hard. It's hard on all of us, no matter what you do. We have a great staff. We have great people working for us and a great board. And sometimes I come off a little strong, but I've never been derogatory to any of the teachers. Thank you very much, and please get our children back as soon as possible for their mental health. Thank you. Their educational well-being.
Thank you, Nathan. Did you want to address his question about 3 teachers?
I can address your questions, Nathan, if you would like. And I think, Karen, you addressed the 6 feet based on we're in a high rate of transmission. And so optimally it would be 6 feet because of the rate of transmission for Rockingham. And the other, you missed, I think, probably the beginning, but we talked specifically that because of the spacing and the size of the classrooms, there would be spillover into a second classroom requiring a second teacher. So even if we were, let's say we went to 4 or 5 feet, we still couldn't fit them all in the same. So we would have to use 2 classrooms anyways, and so that requires 2 adults. Does that help to answer your question? Yes. Okay, you got it. No problem.
Hi, everyone. I first need to preface the fact that I have severe social anxiety. So if I'm starting to cry, it's only because I'm nervous about this. I
Could we get
apologize.
your name?
My name is Jen O'Mani, and I live on Thorwald Ave in Hampton.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I am completely supportive of maintaining the current hybrid model that you have in place. I have been absolutely impressed with my child's teacher. He's in first grade at Center School. She is amazing. She has created a community within her classroom, just like what Mr. Lennon said. He has more friends this year than he's ever had before. He feels more connected this year than he did last year in kindergarten. He feels more happy going to school this year than he did last year. And I am so thankful for his teacher. She has Wednesday meetings, during which time she creates a culture of fun and spirit and love and cutting things and making a huge mess of my kitchen. I'm not there to witness it, but I'm so thankful that she has that time to do it with her whole class. So my son is seeing the other students that are not there with him on cohort A days. I'm so thankful for that. Whew, okay. This current model allows for the children to go to recess, to go to lunch, to have those social emotional interactions, opportunities that enrich their lives. I hear so much about mental health, and trust me, I get it. We've been through a lot in my family this year. I get it. But if you change to this model, the kids are not going to have those same opportunities. If you have to get out of school at 1 o'clock to provide well-deserved lunches for teachers, they won't have the same opportunities that they have now. So what do we want? 5 kind of good days, or 2, maybe 3 awesome, amazing days? That's what I want for my kid. I want for my kid to have 2.5 to 3 days of amazing education he's getting right now. And trust me, it is not easy. I do not have childcare opportunities for my son. I'm a teacher myself in Portsmouth. I'm forever trying to figure out a way to make sure that somebody is there to cover for him. It is hard for me on 3 days a week, but I would much rather him have what he has now than to go to something that might not be as good, right? So, pardon me, my Face ID doesn't work. All right. I took some notes. I wasn't prepared because, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what this 5-day plan was. I got a survey that said, do you want your child to go back to school 5 days? And I was like, well, I don't really know. What does that look like? This meeting tonight has really helped me to clarify that. I really appreciate that you guys took the time to do that. I can tell you something I would not enjoy about this 5-day back into school is the fact that he would be separated into one classroom and the other 6 or 8, 10, whatever, in the other class. Although, as Mr. Land said, every staff member in his building is an amazing educator, you're still taking a music teacher and putting him in a second grade classroom to be a second grade teacher. Whether he or she has done that before, they haven't done it this year, right? That's going to take immense cooperation between those teachers. Guess what that takes? Time. They don't have the time to, I'm telling you guys, they will pull it off. If anyone's going to pull it off, it's the Hampton teachers, and it's the Hampton administrators. But it's hard. They are already working so many extra hours. I can tell you that because I live it. Next, unified arts. I don't want to see that go away. My older son, the only reason why he's still in school and doing so well right now is because of art. That kid can't read and he's a sophomore, okay? But he's an artist. That's why he comes to school. I don't want the unified arts taken away from any of our kids at all. So wonderful, you're going to make it asynchronous. I love that. However, is it really the same? Are the kids using the paint? Are the kids running in the space that they should be running in? Are the kids having the social interactions? Or are they just doing a craft project at home in their kitchen table? Right? I want my kid with that music teacher who is amazing, who is qualified to teach music, and brightens every spirit when he is there with her. I want him with her. I don't want him watching a video of her. Also, let's think about those unified teachers for a minute.
Excuse me, we've hit 5 minutes.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm just so impassioned about this. I want you to seriously consider keeping the model that you have. Those unified art teachers are now going to be planning for asynchronous lessons, a full load of classes, plus whatever they're going to teach as a second grade teacher as well. That to me seems like a lot to ask for the same pay.
Oh.
I can also tell you
Okay.
from personal experience.
Can we finish
My
now?
last statement, I absolutely will.
Okay.
I'm in school 4 days a week. It's great seeing my kids. I have cohort A in the morning, cohort B in the afternoon. We are on a shortened schedule, which is what you would be on as well. I can tell you, it is not better, it is different. That is all.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Katrina June. I live at 333 Winnacunnet Road, Big Barn on the corner. Somebody talked about our vulnerable population. I actually serve Hampton's most vulnerable population, and that is our seniors. 11 months ago, we went into quarantine. Everybody had to go into their apartments. They couldn't see their families, their children, their grandkids. We delivered meals to them. It was horrific. As our kids were starting to come out of their spring remote learning process, our residents began to come out of their apartments. We didn't send them back into their apartments in the fall when things got worse because they started to suffer. We talk about safety a lot tonight, okay? Our kids are not emotionally safe right now. Our residents, the residents of my facility, were not emotionally safe after the isolation period that they had to go through. So I watch the CDC information very closely. I'm on the DPH website daily. I'm on DPH calls weekly. Our county positivity rate right now is 6.3%. It's not 13 point whatever percent. It's 6.3%. Under 10% is that high-risk guideline. So I think if we can come up with creative ways in the senior care industry to keep our residents together, keep them connecting with one another, then we can do that in education too. Where there's a will, there's a way. In March, we had no PPE. I asked families for masks. I asked for 100 masks. Guess how many I got? Thousands. I got thousands of masks. I got plexiglass. I got face shields. I got everything needed. You ask us, somebody said furniture. I'll start building furniture. We will do this with you. We will help you get the kids back to school 5 days a week.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your volunteerism. Thank you for your work that you're doing. My name is Brian Betts. I live at 5 Fieldstone Circle. I'm here tonight because I have a growing concern about next school year in particular. So we have the plan that we have this year, and I'm very thankful for the kids to be in school the time that they are. But I'm feeling like we're all hoping for the vaccines to work. At this time, there's actually no approval for kids to get vaccines. So I'm wondering what it might look like in September, and I think what might be really helpful for the parents and everybody involved with this discussion is if we had a triggering mechanism spelled out as to what it would take to get the kids back. And on top of that, what plans would drive us to that triggering mechanism. Schools aren't going to get any bigger, and unless the 6 feet change, we're going to be in the same situation next year, and a number of other things also happen. So while we have the luxury of time, 6 months in this case right now, I think some of that should be discussed in more detail, and then talking creatively about using common areas, reducing the spacing from 6 feet down to 3 feet, plexiglass, all the things that the New Hampshire DOE have spelled out on their website would be interesting to explore and find different ways to implement them. And if it need be, find the funding to put it into place next year instead of waiting until last minute and then deciding that, oh, we can't do it. So I think that's my main concern right now. And if we have more plans, more discussion about how to implement them, I think that would alleviate a lot of parents' concerns as well. And yeah, it's difficult that I know the budget sessions were just 2 weeks ago. There was nothing in there for planning for COVID for next year. So we should get on something like that. I think that would be fruitful. So I have. Thank you again.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, somewhere out there, we have 3 phone calls coming in. So can somebody route those this way?
Les, we have first Megan on the line. I'm going to unmute Megan. I just want to remind people beforehand, if you would like to make a comment or give some feedback, it's 5-star to raise your hand, and I will call on you as it becomes available. So we're going to start off with Meg now. Megan, you're off of mute, so feel free to ask your question.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, hi. Thank you guys so much. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for taking my call. I second the question that the gentleman just asked. It was actually one of my questions as well regarding the kind of the plan or the measures that we need to have in place to get the kid back, because obviously we can't change the size of the building. So we, I'd like to kind of get a sense of, what it is that we can do or what the plan is. But really what I do want to share is, I'm a parent of a child in the Marston School District, and, my experience is a little bit different than some of the other parents who got up to spoke about their child's mental health. My kid, really, my bigger concern is her academic well-being. And I say this because, we started off, my daughter had an IEP, and she came into the IEP in March of 2020. And we went right into an IEP with remote learning. And, everybody did an excellent job given the circumstances, trying to get her to where she needed to be from a remote setting. And we had that happen over the summer as well, 3 days a week. But she struggled. She struggled with the remote learning. And we went into the second year, the first trimester as a hybrid program, and I was hoping that, 2 days in person, 3 days remote would really help her get to where, she needed to be. I'm sorry. She was pulled out during those days for small groups, and, we attempted remotely. We had constant communication between her and her teachers about how she was doing, and, they did the best job. I had nothing but good things to say about these teachers. I really do. They're doing a phenomenal job trying to get her to where she needed to be. But, remote learning wasn't her thing. And, midway through that first trimester, we took those to STAR assessments, and she hadn't progressed. She was exactly where she was, and she entered lockdown in March of 2020. She tested below the 10th percentile in reading and below the 30th percentile in math. And all of this obviously was so concerning to me. It was this lack of progression and its regression in these assessment scores that qualified her to enter in person 4 days a week, which she started going to in the second semester. And I have to say that, I have seen a huge change in her. She wasn't excited about going to school 2 days, additional 2 days. She was in the learning lab. She wasn't in her regular classroom. She had to make some newer friends. They weren't the same as when her cohorts were. But, she adapted to it, and she thrived, and her grades are going up, and she's progressing. She's jumped in one semester, and I contribute this to, one, her teachers who are phenomenal, and two, the fact that she's with them in person 4 days a week. She's jumped 2 reading levels in one trimester. Her STAR assessment has had her go from below the 10th percentile in reading to over the 30th percentile in reading. And I contribute that. That may not be good to some parents, but to someone whose child is below level and below grade level, it's a huge increase. And I contribute that to her being able to go to school every day. And I have to say, I share this because I was that parent that cried every day during remote learning. And I'm that parent today that can see what having a child in school every day can do to their academic and their social well-being. One trimester can do a lot to these kids. It did it for mine. And I'm lucky because I have an IEP, and by law, she's required to receive this. But I'm asking you to try to give these other students a chance. We understand that they may struggle. There may be a change in the classroom and teachers and friends. But I can also see what one trimester of learning in person can do full-time to a child that's struggling. That's a reward in itself. It shouldn't just be like this for my child, and it should be like this for children with IEP. It should be like this for every child in the district that wants to return to school. And I understand it's not going to be easy. I don't want us to dismiss this as impossible, and I don't want us to just focus on the physical barriers that we can't change, like the size of the schools. And that's really all I really just wanted to say is, I understand mental is huge, but the academics are huge, and I don't want to go into the next school year in the same place we are today. I just ask that let's get creative and let's try to see, we can't change the physical sizes of the classroom, but if there's anything else we can do as parents, as a community, I support that. And I know a lot of other parents would probably support that as well. So I just want to say, thank you guys so much for listening to me. And again, thanks to all the teachers. Thanks to the IEP teachers for getting my child where she is right now. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I see just vast improvement. Thank you for taking my call and listening to me.
Thank you. Megan? I think Jenna or Amy, and then we'll go to the next call. There's another call.
Vertically challenged. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the return to in-person learning. My name is Amy Murphy. I'm a 20-plus year veteran teacher at the Hampton School District, and I'm very fortunate that I've been working in the schools with my in-person students since September. I am also the vice president of the Seacoast Education Association. Yes, I represent the union, but I'm a teacher first. I spent my summer working alongside community members, parents, school board members, colleagues, administration, and our superintendent, Dr. Costa. Our goal was to create a plan to get students safely in school, in person, with as much consistency, normalcy, and continuity of instruction as possible, while setting up structures and routines that were developmentally appropriate for our kids. And we did just that. The collaborative effort to create a hybrid model has allowed our students to consistently attend in-person learning environments. And we have built strong communities. The kids are connected in and out of schools. And yes, I do see your chat, so let them know that. Because of this model, we have not needed to spend time online for multiple periods of 1 to 2 weeks due to COVID cases and exposures throughout the fall and winter. Schools who do not follow a hybrid model have needed to go entirely remote on a day-to-day basis. They never know when it's coming. Following Thanksgiving and Christmas, some districts have had 2 more periods of online learning. This has resulted in over 6 weeks or more of remote learning for entire schools. This has not been the case in Hampton. Our schools have remained open. The teachers and staff of Hampton are dedicated to our students and the quality of their education and safety. We will continue to work hard for students and families in whichever format is deemed necessary by administration and school board that is keeping with our memorandum of agreement and the CDC safety guidelines. As Mrs. Brand said, we are considered in a red zone, one of substantial transmission rates. We very much want to stay in school and in-person learning with our students. If we are to have all students return at one time, everyone must prepare for the significant changes that our teaching and our students' experiences will undergo. In order to maintain our safety protocols, schedules will need to be altered, as well as changes to physical classrooms. This also means the elimination of in-school integrated arts, and our kids love the arts. All things must be considered when making such a significant change 2/3 of the way through the school year. Please know that despite the continuing challenges of this year due to COVID, we love our work.
Every personal attack that I know you have absorbed over this last week, I have personally felt myself. See, one can't post a really mean meme about a teacher or have disparaging words such as, quote, failure, terrible, lack of accountability, not trying, need to do their jobs, and honestly feel that there is any difference between the people who make the decisions, which is our administration and our school board, and those who carry out those decisions, people like me. We are a team of educators. We will not always agree, but we will stand by our administration as they stand by us. As a parent and teacher, I'm here tonight to advocate to maintain the current hybrid model of learning for the remainder of the year, to change my instructional delivery as well as my daughter's educational experiences at this point in the year will only be detrimental on every outcome. A continuation of a hybrid and fully remote plan is the only way to ensure consistency for the remainder of this challenging year. Over the last year, I've received a lot of support from neighbors and family who have said to me, we know teachers, they didn't sign up for this. That's not entirely true. You see, I'll be the last one out of my classroom when there's a fire. And I'll be the first one to stand in front of your children if we have an active shooter situation. I signed up to teach, to protect, to counsel those children in our community. I signed up to give them a model of patience, humor, and courage when we all face difficult times. Right now, we're in one of those difficult times. But it might not be COVID. It could be the loss of a pet. It could be a family getting a divorce, or my personal favorite difficult situation, puberty. We teach them through example that we can do hard things. We can wear masks that look like tablecloths. We can stand 6 feet apart. We can do our homework. We can wake up early every morning. These are all things none of us want to do, but they are the things that we have to do because they are what's best for our children. I signed up to make the hard decisions and to follow the hard decisions because they are what is best for children. There is no teacher, there's no administrator, and there's no board member here who wants this situation. Like many of you, my family is suffering from COVID burnout. But here's what else I don't want to do. I don't want to exchange a system that puts safety for kids and teachers first in order to have a system that is more convenient for working parents. And I say that as one of those people. Because many of you know, my daughters are here at Hampton Academy. And every day that I go to work, my daughter is home alone too. She is unsupervised, and I have the same fear about leaving her in those situations as many of you. But I will not compromise the education she is getting now if it means that what we will be getting is a lack of consistency in the last month and a half of school. I do not want to exchange that consistency for a system that's been in place for a year and we haven't missed a day, for a system where even a single case could put out an entire classroom if those kids have to be closer than 6 feet apart. I don't want my children to exchange teachers and peers that they have come to know, respect, and love for a whole new set of instructors who may not even be certified in what they would be teaching for 2.5 months of an already challenging year. We had no choice but to throw our kids in this world of total disarray last year. It wasn't a choice we had. We had to do it. We saw the turmoil. We saw the unpredictability. We saw the lack of consistency. We knew what it did to them, and we had no choice. But we have a choice now, and I cannot fathom why we would make that choice willingly again. See, the good news is it's not an all or nothing situation. It doesn't have to be we're all in school or all not in school. It doesn't have to work that way. We are creative people. And when I hear people say we should be creative, I will only say back, we are already creative people. And so I would suggest that we look at moving our situation a little differently. Maybe we open up masked sports in the spring. Maybe we open up an after-school help club for kids who are specifically struggling. Maybe we'll look at the possibilities of after-school clubs that can meet outside. All of those things help to build the social, emotional presence of our children. They create a healthier environment for everyone. But reconfiguring classrooms, teachers, and student grouping is only going to create more unrest. It will effectively be like starting the year over. And when we start the year over, what we know is we start a year with high anxiety and regression. And neither of those things do I wish to see in my own children, much less the children that I teach. Your seats are not easy ones to sit in tonight, guys. I do not envy where you are. But I want you to feel confident that whatever decision you come to, the teachers of Hampton will continue to work with the dedication, the integrity, and the passion that we always have for all children. And as a parent, I will promise that I will continue to listen with an open mind, and I will assume positive intentions of the board and of the administration. We are all in this for the children of Hampton.
Jenna, thank you. We have 3 phone calls, so if you want to put the first one through.
Yes, Les. Our next caller will be Nicole. We're going to take her off mute right now. Once again, just to remind anybody else who may be listening, if you'd like to make a comment, it's 5-star. Nicole, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to have this forum. My name's Nicole. I live at 17 Birch Road. I have 3 kids. I have a middle schooler who's in 6th grade. I have a 4th grader in Marston, and I actually have one who will be eligible to register for kindergarten in the fall. So I have multi-layers here going into this. I also happen to come at it from a different level. I'm a certified pediatric nurse. I'm actually a pediatric pulmonary nurse, and I have been working to do COVID testing during the pandemic as well. My middle child has an IP, and what I think I've been most concerned about is not about the services that she's been receiving. Her teachers, her special education teachers have been absolutely incredible. I have loved every single school that I've been through in the Hampton district. She was picked up in center school, and they pushed really hard for her to get on that IEP, and I will forever be thankful for that. So I love these schools. I understand the board is doing the best that they can. I understand Dr. Costa, who I knew as being the principal, is doing the best that she can. I think what my biggest concern is what Dr. Dominant spoke about and what others have alluded to, is that sort of rise that we're seeing in children with anxiety and depression. I am seeing this in my child who has an IEP. She, I think, has a very similar experience to what Principal Lannon said. She loves going to school. She is happy to go to school. She does not fight me in the morning. She is so happy to get on that bus and get to that school and be able to be in that presence. The rest of our 3 days at home are absolutely miserable. And this is not from a lack of anybody putting any effort in. She is not thriving in this model right now. She is 100% miserable. I have reached out, we have set up time for her to see the guidance counselor, but she does not want to be pulled out of in-person class to see the guidance counselor. So she has opted not to do that because that means less time in her classroom. And I think I've resigned to the fact that we are in this hybrid model till the end of the year, and I understand the concerns of the teachers on many levels. One is, how do you suddenly change your model that you've been doing, that you have a good handle on, that you've probably planned for the end of the year? I get that. But I think what we have to look forward to is next year. I cannot see my child mentally handling another year like this. She already is struggling. We are struggling as a family. And this has nothing to do with me being a working parent, which I am. I'm actually at work right now calling in for this meeting. It's why I wasn't able to do that. This is not about me, trying to push the teachers into something they're uncomfortable. As I said, I've been sort of on the front lines in this pandemic going on. So I understand the fear. I understand, when I'm there, as someone takes down their mask, tells me that they can't smell anything and cough, I understand the fear of hoping that PPE is going to keep me safe and then keep my family safe. But I really want us to look forward, because I just don't think that the kids can handle another year of this. At least mine cannot. I think this year we have a plan, we have to go with it, but I don't think we can do this for another year. And I just urge us to sort of look forward. And the last thing that I will urge us is that I know that we're looking at the positivity rate in Rockingham County. It happens to have Salem, New Hampshire in it, which is a large city, which is sure to push our numbers higher, where the positivity rate in Hampton itself is really more like 3.8%. So I think that when we look at positivity rate and looking at our decision making for that, we should really look to our town and not what could be driving up the number like a large city. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have another phone call.
Yes, Les. We will take a phone call from Mercedes next. Mercedes, you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Mercedes McCoy. Thank you for taking my call. I am a resident of Hampton, and I grew up there, went through the school system, and now am working as a nurse. I just think I want to add to the conversation, having worked firsthand as a nurse in our community, and now as a COVID vaccine nurse, my concerns about moving to a 5-day-a-week schedule for the children. I really emphasize with the mental impacts of COVID and the concerns of what this will bring to children's mental health in our community. However, I think it would be remiss to not acknowledge how the rates of anxiety and depression were rising well before the pandemic began. So the pandemic has kind of exposed and brought that exacerbation of mental health issues to the forefront of the conversation, which is in turn kind of a good thing that we can, work towards growing to address those issues. However, I urge that there would be some issues if we go back to full in-time person schooling with the rise of variants across the country that are more transmissible. And, also it really resonates with me, Michelle Cotto's story about losing her brother. I'm so sorry for your loss. But I think those stories are really important to, if we haven't experienced those, to really try to empathize with other people, because we people are losing brothers, sisters, moms, grandfathers. And I urge that now is not the time to take the foot off the brake. Now is the time to kind of look towards next fall to maybe go back into person schooling. And come up with those creative ways that Jen and Ada spoke about maybe returning to sports in the spring where the students can wear masks and there can be some social engagement, and we can work towards bettering our community while being safe and mindful of, the health of those who are around us. I'm pretty passionate about public health, and I just thought as a nurse seeing death and suffering firsthand this year, that maybe I could add something to the conversation. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who's here that wants to speak? Hi.
Oh no, my mask get stuck in my earrings. And you'll be glad to know I timed it, and it's 3 minutes and 27 seconds.
I'll let you know how you did.
There's so much pain right now. Oh, it's not. It's going to be over. I'm sorry, Les. I'm
Can
trying to listen.
Can we
and
get
I
your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. See?
And we
Kyler.
haven't started.
I'm Kyler Ronnerbland. I live on Juniper Lane. Okay. There's so much pain right now. And I'm trying to listen, and I'm trying to share my truth about this situation. On top of everything else, the pain that I am feeling is the division in the community. I believed that Hampton was a community that protects our schools and thus our children. Remember 3 years ago, after the Parkland shooting, how the community came together and we passed the warrant article to have an SRO at every school in Hampton? It was no question that we would do whatever we could in order to protect our schools and our children. Updates were made to buildings, and drills were updated to include evacuations with parent reconciliation. I participated as a parent volunteer at one of these drills, and I walked away from that experience in awe of the strength of our teachers, our kids, and our community. I mention this because of the community coming together, but also to address the dismissive tone people take about our teachers and admin not wanting to be there for our kids or provide education. Our teachers are brave, and they are in this profession for our kids. How dare people accuse them of not wanting what's best for our children when they devote their lives to them? I want the teachers and admin to know that they are appreciated for all of their work before the pandemic, and even more so now, working so hard and coming through for our kids during a scary time in our world's history. What the CDC recommends is already in place in our district. We have kids in school following social distancing, mask wearing, hand washing, and contact tracing. Area schools have to shut down when they get positive cases. Our model has allowed us to stay open. I remember people in the fall saying, we will see how long this lasts, and we've not had to shut down. This year has been a year like no other, and we've made it 100 days. Tomorrow is the 100th day, and my daughter is in first grade and is so excited for that celebration. It has not been perfect, but we're doing the best we can and are so appreciative of the teachers and community getting us there. We have consistency and connection. My son is already mourning losing his Wednesday morning meaning sad, to lose his social emotional learning group with the amazing Mrs. Cronin on Wednesdays. If we change the format again, I fear he will have additional loss. Teacher connection, integrated arts, and consistency have been the fuel that's gotten my kids through educationally and emotionally. I don't feel that amending the 6 feet rule is okay, since the New Hampshire Department of Education even admits it on their website that it's not ideal. If you look at the link, they say it. They say they want this and they know it's not best. Why would we cut corners in regards to safety when it comes to our kids and teachers? Thank you for your hard work. I have faith that no matter what is decided, our teachers and administrators will make the most of it for our kids. I hope the community will rally around them and support them because they deserve all the love and respect we can give them. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Mary Martin. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, I'll try to yell like I do. Okay, my name is Mary Martin, and I'm an educator of Hampton. First, I'd like to just say I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, and I also appreciate the dialogue that's occurred tonight. I think it's important to recognize everybody's different perspectives and what we bring to the table. So I appreciate everybody coming here and people who called in and are listening. But I wrote something as well. I want you to know that we teachers care. We care about your children. We care about their education, their mental health, and their social emotional needs. In most years, we spend more waking hours with your children than we do with our own kids and families. And so, we recognize the importance of school in your children's lives and the gravity of the decision that is before us tonight. I can guarantee that if you ask any Hampton teacher what their why is, they will invariably say that they do what they do each day for your children. The truth is, your children are often the reason we wake up in the morning. Excuse me. For some of us, they become part of our professional identities as we learn and grow from knowing them. They compel us with their curiosity to keep learning and growing, even in the face of adversity. We want them back in school as desperately as you do. We want to have our community back and remember what normal feels like. But normal isn't possible right now. I am personally ready to take on the challenges of whatever new model we are asked to execute, because as an educator, that's what I do. Teachers are flexible, we're problem solvers, we're resilient, and we love our students. I'm not here to debate, but I'm here to represent what I believe is one of the most noble professions, and to tell you that my colleagues are some of the most caring, dedicated individuals I have ever met. Excuse me. I'm also here to state and share some facts. The fact is that Hampton teachers have devoted immeasurable time, energy, and love to supporting the children of this town through a global pandemic. We will continue to do so for as long as is necessary, because that is what we do. We give. However, I also just want to share and reiterate that whatever comes next with the new model that's proposed will not look or feel the same. It will mean less individualized time with the teacher to bridge learning gaps, fewer face-to-face connections, and fewer opportunities for flexible movement and integrated arts and fun. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but I am saying that it will be extremely different. And this decision deserves the time and the collaboration and communication necessary to consider the safety of our whole community and the true impact it will have on our children's lives. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mary. And we have one more call-in, correct?
Hi, Les. Our next caller is Colleen. Colleen, I'm going to take you off mute now. You have the floor.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Colleen Poisson, 11 Josephine Drive. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, so forgive me if this isn't as organized and smooth as a lot of people that have spoken tonight, but I did want to follow up on a couple of things that Jenna Nadeau and Kyla brought up in their speeches to the viewers and the board tonight. And I think one thing I have viewed as a resident of this town, someone who's gone through the school system, someone who has a parent in the school system and has been a part of this town for a long time,
I think what people need to remember is no decisions that are made around anything happening in this calendar year, in this school year, are personal. The amount of hate that is thrown out on
Les, I'm sorry, we hit the mute by mistake in here. Let me get her off from mute again. Colleen, I'm sorry, if you can just repeat your last few seconds.
That's okay. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we
Can
can.
you hear me? Okay. I was just saying, I think there's been a lot of hate on social media, and I think what people need to stop doing is hiding behind their keyboards and know that every single person sitting on that board, every single person teaching your students, every single parent that is dealing with this at home is doing the best they can. Everyone is doing the best they can in an environment that none of us have lived through, none of us had ever hoped to live through. I had a newborn in quarantine, so if we want to talk about mental health, I could talk about that all day long, but I know a lot of that school board personally, and like I said, I have a mom that is a teacher in town, and I promise everyone who is hiding behind their keyboards on social media, everyone is looking out for the best interest of the students and trying to keep everyone healthy while keeping everyone happy and learning. So that's all I wanted to say. I think everyone just needs to remember everyone is dealing with something surrounding COVID in one way or another, and everyone's just doing the best they can. Thank you.
Okay. And we have one more call-in. We're going to make this the last call-in.
Person sitting on that board, every
You have Shannon up there. Well, hey.
Are they there?
On now. Shannon, if you have a comment, Shannon with last four digits, 6925. You had your
Hi
hand
there.
up.
Hi there, this is Candace O'Neill. Sorry, I was at the meeting earlier, but unfortunately had to leave because of a babysitter issue. So I'm a mom of three. I live on 9 Penniman Lane here in town. My oldest is a second grader at center school. I didn't have anything planned to say tonight either, so I won't speak as eloquently as some of the people that went before me. But I just wanted to say, first of all, that this is not about the teachers. I don't know any person who's advocating for their child right now that's putting any blame on the teachers. The common thread that what I hear daily is what a wonderful job these teachers are doing. And I will say that as well. The teachers that my son interacts with, they've been sort of the saving grace of this whole experience. That being said, it's been 11 months. The mental health component of this just cannot be underestimated. I'd like to protect my son's privacy in terms of his specific struggles, but he is suffering. And I respect that for some families, this model might be working really well. That's okay. But we who have kids who are struggling, we have an obligation to advocate for our kids when we see them drowning. I would like to know what is going to change between now and the fall. Agree with it or not, and I don't agree with it, New Hampshire has put teachers too far down the list in terms of vaccination. But if all the teachers have to be vaccinated in order to get the kids back in school, are we even going to be back in the fall? We heard a lot tonight about how this can't work.
And I only recognize teachers on this side of the room, so I'm just going to focus my attention here. My kids are fully remote, and when I say that I am confident that they are emotionally safe and healthy, I am confident. And that is in no small part to the work that you do to check in on them, not just academically, but some of you teach 70 kids a day. You have the stamina to do that day in and day out, and I can really sit one math call without wanting to eat a pack of cigarettes. So, I will never be able to thank you enough for keeping my kids engaged and enjoying this year, and they truly are. I know I'm probably in the minority, although you kind of took my exact idea in saying, I'm not qualified to make the decisions you guys are making, and I think the majority of the people in this room aren't either. So while I appreciate you engaging us in dialogue, and I certainly appreciate the ability to partake in a survey, I don't think that's anything any of us are entitled to. You were hired and elected to represent us, and I have faith that we as a town did a great job in choosing you, and that you are all more than capable. And I thank you for your patience in coming back to this over and over again and having to field complaints day in and day out. I spoke with, I think, 11 teachers today I messaged. I just wanted to know, is it as bad as everybody's saying? Do you feel browbeaten? Do you feel unsupported? And unilaterally, the answer was yes. I don't know if people realize when they're lobbying these complaints out into the universe that they're landing on people in our town that we want to lift up and feel supported. So just to have some perspective on that. And also to add some perspective, I think the worst of this is behind us. I mean, we've gone through 11 months, the weather is about to change. We know a little bit more now than we did at the beginning, so that's a light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of kids. I know other kids are struggling. I know that kids aren't just struggling and not like this is hard. Kids are really struggling and are suffering real setbacks. And even though my children are not, I would be 100% behind a model that incorporated tier 2 and 3 kids somehow back into the building. And I think you would find a lot of parents who are participating in hybrid now would be willing to take a step back to give that kind of space to kids who genuinely need it. Because Hampton will always rise to the occasion and help people out. That's who we are. And I also will say that the loudest voices tend to be the voices of complaint. You see more negative reviews for any restaurant than you ever do a positive one, just because people are more likely to be vocal if they're unhappy with something. So going forward, as a member of the town who's very satisfied with the work you are doing, I am going to personally pledge to be more vocal about that and engage more on the behalf of teachers. And I think that if all of us who are having positive feelings about this but maybe have not yet spoken up, that it would be great if you could make your voices heard. And, you know, at the very least, I think what all of us at home listening and in this room could do would be to send the teachers of our children a nice email of thanks and appreciation to let them know that we do genuinely care and value them. Because it would be a shame to see anyone walk away from our town or the profession because they feel like they're up against a whole group of people. So I guess that's all I got. All right.
Thank you. So people are probably thinking next steps. I would be. I think the next step, probably the most important step, is to finish that parent survey. Dr. Costa, it has to be in by
Friday by 9 o'clock. This
9
Friday.
9 p.m.
Yep, 9 p.m.
9 p.m. So, and someone, I believe, asked Dr. Costa, well, I filled it in before I knew, you know, what the ramifications might be of going back full time. So Dr. Costa explained to them that we will do your last one.
We sort through. We are sorting through the data just to make sure that we are, you know, one survey per household, per child, obviously. But we will take the last survey. I think there might have been some errors. We received several. But we'll take the last survey completed. So if you're fine with your survey, that's great. But if you want to change it one way or the other, that's fine too. And we will look at the last survey submitted, and we will compile that.
Okay. So pass the word. Anyone else wishing to speak? The reason I asked that we did this was because when we had call-in people at the last board meeting, it was very difficult to hear them speak. Even tonight, I thought it was a little difficult. Yes, name and fire away.
Yeah, Ryan June, Winnicott Road. So thank you all for your time and the listening session. I think, you know, my frustration doesn't come from necessarily the model or the participation of the teachers and the way they've carried out the year. I've had one child, both remote, that are one is doing excellent, but at the end of the day, suffering greatly from mental health issues. On the other hand, I have a daughter that is struggling academically, but is fine at the end of the day. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, as we've all talked about. I think the one thing that I hope for as we move forward is transparency from the board and from the administration. I think one of my frustrations started back in the summer last year. We took a survey, and I don't know the results, but from anecdotal evidence, I've been told 90+% supported going back full-time. So then we need to understand why we didn't get to going back full-time back in the summer. Now, realistically, you know, we've talked about we're 6 months into the year, so we're 11 months out from the start of the pandemic. And realistically, I have not seen, and I don't know if anybody else has, a full-fledged document that shows what is the plan. Lois, you mentioned logistics. We're 11 months in. The logistics should have been mapped out and different variations of those logistics. And that's not what we're seeing as parents. And I think that's where some of the frustration stems from. And I think as we go forward, I understand the difficulties of making a change this late in the year. I really do. But at the same time, all we saw in the 5-day plan was the negative impact, right? The change. What we didn't understand is what the positive change would be to the folks that are coming back in. And I think that's really important that we understand that, really important that we take that into consideration. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. Mr. O'Connell, I don't know if you're still here. Your group is very different. And I don't have a student in the middle school, but it's incredibly different. At the same time, we look at going down to center school. You know, our kindergartners haven't been in school really ever. 2 days a week, tops, for their academic career. I have a first grader. She's been out for the last 11 months. That, to me, is not acceptable. That is really difficult for her. I understand that there are going to be some limitations on, you know, where she is academically at the end of the year. So we take the small wins and we move forward. But we need better. And I think that's all we're asking for. We're not knocking the job that anybody is doing, but at the same time, transparency, planning. You know, if we don't see a plan now, are we going to see one come the fall when realistically everybody needs to be back in school? You know, I think your letter earlier this month, maybe 2 weeks ago, laid the groundwork for the fact that we're having a discussion that's, you know, not necessary. The decision seems like it's already been made that we're staying hybrid, staying remote, whatever, for the end of the year. It was pretty clear that vaccinations were required to come back full time. So I just want to make sure that we're having transparency from you all. Don't bring us in to have listening sessions if the feedback is not really going to be taken into account. And don't ask us for surveys if it's not going to be shared back with us that, you know, these are the results. How can we work to achieve what you all want? And that's really it at the end of the day. I think we just want transparency and a true plan to move us forward to get back in. Just saying it's 5 days and this is all we're losing doesn't cut it for me. It wouldn't cut it in my job, and I don't think it would in many others. So that's my 2 cents. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I really appreciate everything that everyone has said tonight. It is mind-boggling. Parents that are here, parents that are watching, parents that are called in, parents that are teachers that are here, it's just amazing. You are doing a fabulous job. You really are, under unbelievable circumstances. I too have been doing remote teaching with a 7 and 10-year-old, and I too have, actually 2 of us, have encountered what you encountered, where one child academically pretty good, emotionally a mess. Another one academically not so great, emotionally seems okay. If you have children that are having issues one way or the other, or you're having kids that are feeling this way, please make sure you reach out to your building administrators, to the teachers, to your guidance counselors. Don't sit and let them suffer. Please reach out. We have people. They want to help you, but if we don't know, we can't help. If you have resources, or you know of resources that you think that we could use in our schools, you mentioned some that you might have. If you think it will help us, by all means, please call and let us know. We can't use resources or know of those resources if you don't let us know. As far as the transparency question, I agree, but then again, things have been extremely fluid. We're just now, or just recently, having variants of the COVID-19. So what do we do with that? If we present a plan, and then 2 months from now, something happens, you know, we're going to have to shift pretty quickly. That's why we started with the hybrid model, just because it was the one where we could go either remote if we had to right away, or we could flip back full-time if we could right away. So things are fluid, and that makes making decisions even that much harder. There was one more person that I just wanted to say. Oh, Jessica, wonderful suggestions. If you have suggestions that you think might help us in moving forward, or that we need to consider, please call, let us know. You don't need to wait for us to put out a survey. You have to let us know. We are a village. We can do this. And our kids are heroes. They are resilient, and they will get through this, and we will help them. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we really do appreciate all of the input. We appreciate everything you're saying, and we will try our hardest to respond to what you need. Thank you.
Jenny?
I'm very fortunate. I have 18 in-school 4-year-olds. But that compares nothing to my first student I'm doing remote in first grade, and I'm doing first grade math, and they didn't do it like I did in first grade. So I am learning, and I am feeling, as you guys are, a little frustrated at times, a little overwhelmed at times. I too am a reader of social media, and I shouldn't be, because the more I read, the more upset I get, and then I might be tempted to say something that I can't erase. And so sometimes we get into that situation. I want to tell you, you're all important tonight. Every one of you, every teacher, every parent, every student. The one thing I'm going to urge parents to do is fill out that survey. A lot of times, if I don't think my opinion's going to be the one of the majority, I won't come to a meeting. I won't speak up. I'll sit there and say, well, I don't agree with all these people, so I'm really a little nervous, so I'm not going to say anything. Fill out that survey. No decisions have been made. This board has not made any decisions. We're waiting for the survey results. We will go over the survey results. We will take the explanations that have been given here, all of the input, the letters that have been written to us. We're going to sit down and we're going to discuss every bit of it. So please don't leave the meeting tonight thinking that you've got a solved issue. You haven't. We're looking for solutions. You're part of the team, and we truly believe administration, teachers, students, and parents and community make a very important of this team, and thank you all for being part of that team.
Frank?
I'd just like to reiterate what Virginia said. Basically, we appreciate all the feedback you've given us, both from the staff, the teachers, and especially the parents, because you're there on the front lines. You see your kids every day. And we're in it together, and we're going to work out of this situation together. And I really appreciate everything you've done. And please, please, let us know if these forums help for you to understand where we're coming from and we understand where you're coming from. Just let us know, and we can do this. You know, on a 6-week basis, an 8-week basis, whatever it is, we can communicate and we can share ideas and we can work together in solving this dilemma and helping the kids, because that's the most important thing, is your kids. Thank you.
First off, I want to thank everyone for coming. For those of you that got up and let all your feelings out for us and for you. I mean, it's important. You're who we are representing. And the children, as I pray every night that our kids are safe, there's nobody that's passed on. Our children are in school. Yes, not the best that some of you want, but I do know that our teachers have worked very hard. And our children, I just hope and pray that next year, a new year starting, that we'll all be back in, and we all will hopefully see teachers vaccinated. That's one thing that I think is very important. Our teachers would deserve that. They need to be vaccinated so there is no COVID coming through them. And just thank you very much for coming tonight. And I just hope and pray that next year will be normal.
And so at this time, I'm going to close this part of the meeting. We have a couple items of business, not COVID-related, that we need to take care of. So I'm going to make a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A, number 3, 11, in parentheses A through E. Roll call vote. Frank?
Yes.
Pepper?
Yes.
Andrea?